We there? God darn it. Chris, can you hear me?
On order the Zionsville Plan Commission meeting of Monday, August 16, 2021. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
Liberty, justice for all.
Janice, would you please take roll?
Yes. Mr. Franz,
Present.
Mrs. Grabanowski, present. Mr. Jones,
Present.
via Zoom.
Did I come in?
Yes, thank
We heard
you.
All right, thank you.
Mrs. Walker is absent. Mr. Lake. I just saw him. I did too. Mr. Lake.
He was on.
Yeah, it was. He probably didn't. Okay, we'll come back. Mr. Fedor.
Present.
All right, so,
Ms. Madrick.
sorry.
Present.
All right, so with that, we have five members present. We do expect one to join us. So when he does join us, could you notify so we can put that in the record? With five, that's a quorum. Any action, again, will take 4 votes, either yea or nay, for the motion to be passed or denied. In your packet, there was 2 sets of minutes from the July 19th, 2021 and the special meeting of on July 20th, 2021. Are there any comments, changes, additions, deletions to any of those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Given the fact that can we do this one by acclamation or should we do roll because of, okay, because we have members participating remotely, we'll have to take a roll call vote on those.
Mr. Franz.
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski.
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Aye.
Ms. Walker is absent. Mr. Lake.
He's muted.
Shall we go on?
That's fine.
We'll come back. Mr. Fedor
Aye.
and Miss Madrick?
Aye.
Mr. Lake?
Chris, it looks like you're muted. All right, well, no, there he is. Chris, are you on now? Somebody's there. Join. All right, well, we had 5 votes aye, so that's sufficient enough to pass those. On tonight's docket, I'll go ahead and get this out of the way. There were 5 petitions that used first-class mail for notification. They were 2021-28 DP, 2021-39 CA, 2021.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we got you now.
I can't hear you guys at all.
Can you message on the system?
I can't, they'd have to do it back there.
No. Sure, I'll figure it out.
All right. So 2021-37 PP, 2021-38 DP, and 2021-35 DP. So I'd like a motion to allow use of first-class mail for proper notice.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Janice, will you take roll?
Mr. Franz?
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Shall I continue with Ms. Walker? Mr. Lake? Mr. Fedor?
Aye.
Ms. Madrick?
All right, so that's 5 affirmative votes. So notice is allowed by first-class mail. Onto the docket items. We have some continuance requests, 2021-31Z, Pulte Homes of Indiana, Goodwin Properties, 866 East 400 South. Petition for zone map change to rezone approximately 68.691 acres from rural R1 low density, single family residential zoning district to an R2 low density, single family and 2 family residential zoning district. Is the petitioner present?
Yes, Mr. President, for the record, my name is Matt Price. I'm with the Denton's Law Firm, 10 West Market Street, Indianapolis, Indiana. Here tonight on behalf of Pulte Home. We are working with staff at their request to update our traffic study. We did not have it in time in any form, draft or otherwise, in time for staff to review it. I did speak to my client just a moment ago, and we did receive a draft. It appears earlier today, but obviously not prepared to proceed, but we will be ready to proceed at the September 20 meeting of the Plan Commission. This will be our second continuance request, but we feel like we'll be ready to go at the next hearing.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions, comments from any members of the Plan Commission? If not, is there a motion to continue this matter to the September 20th, 21
So
Plan
moved.
Commission meeting? Is there a second?
Second.
Janice, would you please take roll?
Yes. Mr. Franz?
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Lake?
Aye.
Mr. Fedor?
Aye.
Ms. Madrick?
Aye.
All right, so that matter carries 6-0. Continue to next month. Next on the docket is Brickyard, docket 2021-36, 2021 Brickyard Solar, various properties in Union Township. Petition for development plan approval of a solar farm and various properties in northern Union Township with all properties zoned rural, general, agricultural.
Mr. President, I need to recuse myself from docket 2021-36-2021.
Okay, thank you. Was the town going to handle this one?
It should be on, the petitioner should
Okay.
be online.
All right, is petitioner online?
Hello, good evening.
Hello, please state your name,
Hi.
address, please.
Yes, good evening. My name is Mary Soliday. I'm the attorney representing Brickyard Solar. Ally Sexton with Next Year Energy may also be with us. I am simply here to request a 30-day continuance in this matter. As the planning staff was well aware, we did pay a $79,000 filing fee, and we are studying our options regarding Brickyard Solar going forward, and would again ask that this matter be continued to September 20.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions, comments from any members of the planning commission? If there are none, is there a motion to continue this matter to September 20th, 2021?
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Janice, would you please take roll?
Yes. Mr. Franz,
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Lake,
Aye.
Mr. Fedor.
Recused himself.
Oh, that's right. Excuse me. Miss Madrick.
All right, that motion carries 5-0. We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Next on the docket is 2021-22DP, Nicholson Orthodontics, 95 East Oak Street. Petition for development plan approval of a 4,000 plus or minus building addition to an existing structure in the Village Business District BBD.
Paul Kite, Strongbox Commercial, representing Nicholson Orthodontics, and request a 30-day continuance to complete our elevations.
Is there any questions, comments from any of the members of the planning commission? Vernon, is there a motion to continue this matter to September 20th, 2021?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Janice, would you please take roll?
Yes. Mr. Franz.
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Lake,
Aye.
Mr. Fedor,
Aye.
Mrs. Madrick. Aye.
That motion carries 6-0. We'll see you next month. Thank you. On to continued business. 2021-29 CPA, Town of Zionsville Draft Airport Strategic Land Use Plan. Petition to consider amendments of the Town of Zionsville Comprehensive Plan in order to consider incorporation of the Airport Street Strategic Land Use Plan. All right,
Mr.
Wayne.
France, members of the Planning Commission, Wayne DeLong, Director of Planning and Economic Development for the town. And certainly, as you may recall from your last meeting, this petition was continued for other reasons to allow a full complement of the Planning Commission to be present to hear the matter. Certainly, we learned late today that Ms. Walker was unable to join us this evening, and so certainly as staff, we are not here to push forward, given the absence of one of your members, for the very reason of the continuance, again, to have all members hear this matter. Certainly, we're here open to the idea of continuance for 30 days to your September 20th date.
Okay.
And certainly apologizing to the team. We did not get a chance to even communicate this. This happened so late in the day.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions, comments? Chris, did you have anything to say on this one?
My only thoughts were, for as much as we talk about no residential in this area, and then we show what is multifamily residential, it may help to do some sort of diagramming in the plan that shows concentric circles radiating out from the airport that talks about where residential usages are or are not acceptable and what type of residential usages. That way the plan kind of more complements itself versus contradicts itself. And then potentially making special note of applicability of solar in and around the airport, directly in and around the airport, as that may be a good option for that property, and would hate to have somebody speculate as to the intent later if we can clarify some intent now.
All right.
Very good. We'll be prepared for September.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions, comments? If not, is there a motion to continue this matter to September 20th, 2021?
So moved.
Is there a second? All right. Janice, will you take roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Franz,
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski,
Aye.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones,
Aye. Am I not coming through?
You are now.
you are now, yes.
All right, sorry.
Mr. Lake,
Aye.
Mr. Fedor,
Aye.
Ms. Madrick. Aye.
That motion carries 6-0. Continues next month. Thank you. Next on the docket are 2021-32RP, 267 Industrial Park Phase 2 replat, petition for replat approval, 5301 South State Road, 267 Lemon, Indiana, 46052. Petition for replat approval to replat Block 1 into lots 3 and 4 on the rural I-1 Light Industry Zone District. And docket number 2021-33DP, 267 Industrial Park Phase 2 replat. Petition for plan approval to allow for construction of 2 light industrial warehousing and distribution buildings in the R1 Light Industry Zoning District. Petitioner present. Please begin.
Good evening. Greg Dempsey, Innovative Engineering, 3961 Perry Boulevard, Whitestown, Indiana. Here tonight to present the 267 Industrial Park replat and development plan. I've got Blair Carmesino with me tonight. He's with Becknell Open. He's representing the owner and developer. A little bit of history on the site. The site was rezoned rural I-1 in 2018. The primary plat and development plan for the first 2 buildings, along with the detention ponds, water quality measures, mass earthwork for phases 1 and 2 were all approved in 2019. All the utilities necessary to provide service for both phase 1 and phase 2 were run along a common center drive that separate phase 1 and 2. Phase 2 consists of 2 buildings. This is consistent with what was approved with the primary plat. Building 3, which is the northern building, is approximately 392,000 square feet. It'll have loading berths on both the north and south side, along with additional trailer parking. Car parking will be on the east and west side of that building. Building 4, which is the southern building, is approximately 208,000 square feet. The loading berths will be on the north side. Car parking will be along the south. The pond located along the east side of those buildings was designed and constructed to accommodate runoff from this phase. There's a shared drive cut onto State Road 267. This was approved and constructed as part of phase 1 also. In addition to that, both buildings will have access to the center drive that runs east and west. There was no proposed connection to County Road 550 South at this time. The lighting and landscaping plans have been prepared in accordance with the town standards and the zoning commitments. As noted in the staff report, we will continue to work with staff to address any remaining comments. These comments are all fairly minor in nature. And lastly, the building colors and elevations will be very similar to the same as what was built in phase 1. Thank you for your consideration tonight, and Blair, I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to open it up to the public if there's any comments on this matter. Is there anybody online? All right, being none, staff report, please, Janice.
As a part of the original recorded plat, the petitioner now requests to replat Block 1 into lots 3 and 4. The plat has been reviewed to town standards and the recorded commitments and found to be in compliance as reflected in the engineer comments provided to you. Staff is in support of the replat. Happy to answer any questions on that. If you'd like, I can go on to the development
Yep,
plan
go
as
ahead with
well.
the development plan,
At the
too.
time of the writing of the staff reports, the petitioner was able to respond to staff comments in the form of a response letter, which has been included in your packets. However, timing did not allow for the updated plans to be submitted prior to this meeting. Noting the response letter from the petitioner dated August 10th this year, many of the staff comments related to lighting and landscaping will be satisfied with the updated plans that will be submitted. The petitioner will continue to work with staff to resolve the drainage comments. Staff recommends conditional approval of the development plan. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. At this point in time, I'll open up to any members of the Plan Commission who have questions, comments. I got a question. When this was first designed, was there some thought that there was going to be a single building on that space?
It was kind of, it was tossed around a little bit, but really the approach all along has been for two buildings. They left that southern portion as a single block just in case it did, if the market need changed, then they could put a single building on there if they wanted to without having to vacate the plat.
And the building, lot 4, building 4, relative to the County Road 550, is that the same distance as was proposed on the original kind of mock-up? The only thing I'm concerned of is some people who live along there, they were complaining about, sight lines.
Right.
And you guys were planting trees. So I'm wondering if it was moved closer to the street or the road, would that impact the plantings, or is it still going to have the same kind of setback from the property, the road?
It's still the same setback.
Okay.
There originally was in 2018, if I remember, there was a driveway cut on 550. Or on the county road there. There is no cut any longer.
No, not at this time.
I recall that on the south end of the lot, there was a lot of concern about the southern neighbors across the road with drainage. Janice, you mentioned earlier that you think that had been taken care of with the overall site development to begin with. Is there anything going on with that at this point in time?
Quite a lot of the drainage has been managed through the first phase, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the drainage on that side was actually, we had reconstructed a legal drain that went through there. And it went from, I think it was a 15-inch pipe up to a 48-inch pipe. And that seems to have improved drainage pretty considerably in that area.
Okay. Other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain two motions, one for the replat and one for the development plan.
I'll do the replat.
All right.
I move to approve the docket number 2021-32-RP replat to replat block 1 into lots 3 and 4 in the rural 1 light industry zoning district be conditionally approved based on the findings established at the hearing as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussions, comments? Janice, would you please take roll?
Mr. Franz,
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski,
Aye.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Lake,
Aye.
Mr. Fedor,
Aye.
Mrs. Madrick. Aye.
And the motion carries 6-0, so that the replat is approved. Is there a motion on the development plan?
I move that docket 2031-33-DP Development Plan Petition to allow for the construction of 2 light industrial warehousing and distribution buildings in the rural I-1 light industrial zoning district be conditionally approved, or approved with conditions noted in staff report and based upon findings as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion, comments? Janice, would you please take roll?
Mr. Franz,
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Lake,
Aye.
Mr. Fedor,
Aye.
Ms. Madrick. Aye.
That motion also carries 6-0. The development plan is approved. Thank you very much. Next item on the docket is 2021-28 DP Goddard School, 1580 West Oak Street. Petition for development plan approval of a plus or minus 12,915 square foot childcare facility on a 2.6 plus or minus acre lot, which is zoned Urban Neighborhood Business District, Urban B1.
Good evening, Doug Von Gutten, Ancon Construction, 2146 Elkhart Road, Goshen, Indiana. Good evening. Here representing Dia Walls and the Goddard School. The last meeting, we had a continuance to address a few outstanding items from the staff regarding drainage. Here tonight to ask for the final development plan approval.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody in the public who'd like to comment on this matter? Anybody online? Janice, can we have staff report, please?
On March 15th this year, the Plan Commission provided a favorable recommendation for the rezone of this parcel from B2 to B1 in order to allow for a child care facility. In this development plan petition, the petitioner requests development plan approval for a 12,915 square foot child care facility. Staff has reviewed the project's landscaping, lighting, drainage, and parking and found the project to be in compliance as reflected by the engineer's comment letter provided in your packet. Staff recommends approval of the project.
All right. Is there any questions, comments from any members of the Plan Commission?
I've got two.
All right. Go ahead.
What was the outcome of the drainage? Previous years, we've had neighbors on the south side of Oak Street complain about drainage. As I was going through the drawings, I was trying to figure out what the outfall for those two retention ponds is. What's going on there, and is this contributing to anything on the south side of Oak, and have we gotten it resolved?
Part of the questions from the last meeting was the drainage on the northwest corner of the property, and I don't know that I can answer that question exactly what that elevation is right at the moment, but we have addressed that with the staff and believe that we've answered all the questions from the staff regarding that drainage. There is a drainage easement on the west side of the property that we are using as the outfall for helping that situation in the northwest corner. I don't know if that answered your question.
If there's been some review of it, like I said, I was just going through the drawings trying to figure out where we could see where all the water came into the retention ponds. I wasn't finding where it went out. The second question is, and I posed this to Wayne earlier, there's a restaurant, El Toro, there in the strip center. City of Indianapolis, I'm used to being confronted with a situation where a school cannot be, or maybe the reverse, I should say, you cannot have a liquor license within, I think it's 300 feet door to door of a school or a church. Is there any type of rule regulation either within excise or our own zoning that has any effect on this, or is this a problem?
Janice?
Sounds like a staff question. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not aware that we have anything in our particular zoning ordinance, but it might well be a state requirement, something that would have to be discovered.
So when it comes to state review of this project, and there's an existing liquor license within X square feet of this building, is the state then going to prevent a permit from being issued?
I don't have knowledge of that at this point in time, Larry. That's something that would have to be investigated.
Larry, my guess is that unless you had a site plan showing an adjacent restaurant that might have a liquor license during the construction design review process with the state of Indiana, they are looking for life safety issues relative to the building itself, and that would not come under their purview.
Yeah, I mean, usually what happens, my experience is the burden is on the liquor license owner, not so much the school or the church. My concern is there's an existing restaurant use. If that restaurant use changes locations, takes their liquor license with it, and then along comes a new operator wanting to bring their liquor license to that site, have we created a problem? Wayne, did you get a chance to talk to the Cosines about this today?
I don't have that information. Roger, did you happen to have a chance to check in with the Cosines?
No.
No, I mean, this burden would fall to the petitioner and then fall to the neighbors. I mean, the town cannot answer this very specific question about the liquor license, unfortunately.
Larry, how's that 300 feet measured based upon your
It
understanding?
is corner of structure to corner of structure. So it's not even door. When I said door to door, that was even incorrect. They take the closest 2 points of any entitled location. So once you call the school a school, it's from the corner of the school. Once you call the restaurant, having a three-way liquor license, it's the back corner of the restaurant.
So my understanding is this came up out on, out by the new daycare across from Stonegate, the west entrance of Stonegate, because there's a liquor store there as well. And that was heavily petitioned against. And my understanding is that it is barely far enough away from the restaurant, or the liquor store is barely far enough away from the school to comply. But again, that was the school coming after the daycare, not the daycare coming after the liquor license.
Our attorney has something to state on this.
Well, I mean, if someone has a liquor license now, they would not be affected by an after occurring event like the construction of the school. And someone in the future, that's an issue for the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, not for us.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? If there are none, is there a motion on this matter?
I move that docket number 2021-28-DP, a 12,915 plus or minus square foot childcare facility on a 2.6 plus or minus acre lot, which is zoned urban neighborhood business district, urban B1, be approved based on 1, the findings in the staff report and the staff recommendations, 2, submitted findings of fact, 3, subject to resolutions of outstanding review items identified by the engineering review memos in Executive 7 of the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion, comments? Janice, would you please take roll?
Mr. Franz,
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Lake,
Aye.
Mr. Fedor,
Aye.
Ms. Madrick.
Aye.
The motion carries 6-0. Approved. Thank you very much. Next on the docket. Hit them all three at once. 2021-39 CA, Towns of Appaloosa. 10901 East 300 South and 3201 South US 421. Also 2020, 2039 CA is a petition for commitment amendment to modify commitments associated with Plan Commission approval of docket 2020-04 CA, recorded in the office of the Recorder of Boone County, Indiana, as instrument number 202013511. Docket number 2021-37 PP, petition for primary plat approval to allow for 125 lots, 4 being common areas in the rural GB general business and rural PB professional business zoning district. And docket number 2021-38 DP, petition for development plan approval to provide for the development of a 16 plus or minus acre site to accommodate 125 townhomes in the rural GB general business and rural PB professional business zoning district. Is the petitioner present?
Yes, good evening, Mr. President, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Matt Price. I'm with the Denton's Law Firm in Indianapolis, Indiana, here tonight on behalf of Pulte Homes, and have a team of representatives who are with me this evening to answer any questions you may have about each or any one of the proposals we have before you this evening. Let me introduce those individuals very briefly while Mr. Rex, thank you, has loaded my PowerPoint. First, we have Dave Compton, on behalf of Pulte. Robin Crawford, also on behalf of Pulte. Our civil engineer to Dave's right, Brandon Burt. And then the owner of the real estate, Bob Harris, with Harris FLP. Give you just a little bit of an overview of the property itself. We can go to the first slide. Thank you. The Planning Commission has reviewed various aspects of this project over the last really year and a half, 2 years. You may recall that up in the northwest corner of the property, which is located generally south of County Road 300 or 146th Street and east of US 421. But up in the northwest corner, we received approval for the retail shops back in April of last year. And then since that time, we received approval for various other outlots along Michigan Road. And if you drive by there today, you can see that the initial building of the building pad and we're on the eve of going vertical with the improvements to the shop up in the northwest corner. This particular proposal is east of the outlots and south of 146th Street, and is what we propose to be the residential component of the project. And so what you see is the Towns at Appaloosa, which is a townhome project that will cover approximately 18 acres of the total project site. Up in the very northern section of the property, so abutting the towns to the north, is a little over a 5-acre parcel that is being reserved with the anticipated use being hopefully a boutique grocery store. So a Whole Foods, a Fresh Time type user. That's what that a little over 5-acre parcel is being reserved for. The towns itself consists of 121 townhomes. You'll see that one of our petitions is a commitment modification. And the commitment modification is necessary because the commitments made originally, I think back in 2008, and they've been amended several times since then, prohibited multifamily land uses. And the way Zionsville defines multifamily is it's any building that has 3 or more attached dwellings. And so the underlying zoning districts, this consists of 2, each of which permit multifamily in all forms, including apartments. We're not seeking approval for that genre of multifamily, but only approval for owner purchased for sale townhomes. If you go to the next slide. The next slide is the landscaping plan. In the approximate center of that drawing, you'll see the main access, which is what we call Hanoverian. which eventually hooks up with Michigan Road and is a full access entry point. Immediately north of that is Pinto, which is our secondary access. And then we have a loop road system that's comprised on the east side as Haflinger and on the west side as Morat. That's our street configuration. We have undertaken a great deal of effort to arrive at a landscaping plan that provides for ample buffering. I'll describe that a little bit as we go into more detail. But you'll see kind of beginning up in the northeast corner, we have a water feature that has been contemplated for a portion of the project since its inception. You may recall that originally some of the early iterations of this plan contemplated that immediately west of that retention pond would be really a large scale traditional grocer like a Kroger. Those plans have been scuttled and changed as we have responded to the market, and now this project has evolved over the last several years. But it's still incorporating that water feature into the project, which provides for buffering with the Willow Glen homeowners to the east. One of the other ongoing discussions that is occurring with Willow Glen is the precise landscaping treatments along that existing fence row. And so the plan is to both clean up that fence row, take out some of the undergrowth and the weeds, the poison ivy, clean up that fence row, include the plantings along the eastern property line as we show on our landscaping plan. Then we've also had additional discussions with property owners on the east side of the line to make the offer to allow them to identify native hardwoods and spruce trees that we could plant both on our side of the property and on their side of the property to create a very robust buffer along that eastern perimeter. Similarly, on the south, we also have a retention feature, water feature to the south that provides additional buffering against the Bridlewood subdivision further to the south. And then you'll notice that in the list of requested waivers, we are requesting a waiver from the street tree requirement. The street trees for the project would consist of approximately 127 trees in total. That would be on both sides of the street configuration. What we propose to do is to not locate those trees to the interior of the project and along the streets, but to take those same 127 plantings and what we call redistribute them throughout the project. And so if you look over immediately west of the pond, you'll see that we've redistributed a number of trees along the west side of that pond. We've also added trees along the north perimeter of the project. And then similarly, all along the western perimeter of the project, we've added additional trees to the rear of the homes as you go north to south along the western portion of the project. I should also add that one, I think, important feature of the buffering on the west side of our project is that as each outlot has been approved, they've been approved with variances that required that the plantings that would otherwise be in a parking lot strip be relocated to the eastern portion of those parcels. So what we're providing for is kind of a redundancy or duplication of landscaping to create a robust streetscape along the interior of the project. So we'll have plantings along the rear of the outlets as you go north to south. And then once you cross the street, You'll also have those additional plantings that are part of the redistribution of the street trees to create street buffering really on both sides and augmenting the screening between the residential portion of the project and the commercial portion of the project. Go to the next slide. Show a little bit about what the townhomes are proposed to look like. You may recall that we have strived for architecture that harkens back to the kind of the history of the property, both within the Harris family and kind of equestrian type feel, reminiscent of the barn that used to be located on the property. This is a new townhome design that's been developed specifically for the Appaloosa setting. And we've tried to achieve a architecture and color palette that very much complements the other aspects of the mixed use development. So that's the front elevations. You'll see the next slide, if you would, Joe. These are the rear and side elevations. Wanted to mention a little bit about some of the key features of the homes themselves. All the homes will be limited to 2-story, under the maximum height for single family dwellings on the property. So they'll be at just over, almost 34 feet. The maximum height under the current ordinance is 35 feet. They'll be between 23 and 24 feet wide, and depending on whether there's a sunroom addition in the rear, anywhere from 54 to 60 feet in depth. Wanted to mention a few of the exterior features and materials. Be no vinyl siding. We intend to have fiber cement siding, asphalt dimensional shingles, and then some masonry elements depending on the precise elevation, which you may have noticed on the front elevation. Wanted to mention just a couple other things in closing. We have a total of 4 waivers, one of which I already mentioned, which is the street tree waiver, which we're proposing to relocate the trees, as I mentioned. The other waiver request is to not require sidewalks on both sides of each street. We have a sidewalk that's on the exterior perimeter loop, as well as along Hanoverian and Pinto. We do have 3 kind of stub streets that do not have sidewalks, but they're served by, they are the frontage for only a few homes, and those are Arabian, Noriker, and Belgian on the plan. What we are trying to achieve is overall connectivity within the project itself. One of the commitments that we're prepared to make after a great deal of discussion with the Willow Glen subdivision is to use resources that would otherwise be devoted to additional sidewalks, and use those resources to build a sidewalk connection to the Willow Glen subdivision up in the northeast corner of the project. As we have noted, Mr. Harris and I have noted over the years, the current Zionsville master plan requires perimeter sidewalks. So we have perimeter pathways, for example, along 421 and along Michigan Road. We think that's a good thing in terms of promoting overall connectivity in the community. The Willow Glen subdivision, though, was built at a time when that was not required, and it was under the former Boone County jurisdiction. And so what we propose to do is to kind of finish that link, if you will, connect to them offsite and provide a convenient and safe sidewalk access into the Appaloosa Crossing project. The other 2 waiver requests are, there's a provision in the Zionsville subdivision control ordinance which prohibits dead end streets. On occasion, not coincidentally, I think for a couple of other townhome projects, That waiver has been granted where it involves only a limited number of homes and there's otherwise convenient and safe traffic circulation in the project. We feel like we have that here with the looped road system and with the dual access points with regard to Hanoverian and Pinto. And then lastly, we have a centerline radii waiver request, which initially the town staff had some questions about. Brandon Burke, our civil, was able to provide a clearer auto turn example, pardon me, to demonstrate that required fire department apparatus could safely move around our development. And so we understand now that the town staff anyway is in support of all 4 of our waiver requests. We think this is a great fit for our overall project. We wanted to have a residential component. We feel like this meets that need. We also feel like it will remove any uncertainty about what is going in the centerpiece of the proposal and kind of set in motion the development pattern which everyone can proceed around and understand what is going in there and make appropriate provisions for the buffering and screening so that the project works and functions well internally as well as a good neighbor for the surrounding property owners. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. My team would as well. And we appreciate your consideration this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Matt. At this point in time, is there anybody publicly like to speak on this matter? Please step forward, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Michael Solar. My address is 3615 Sugar Pine Lane. I'm representing the Hidden Pines Homeowners Association. On behalf of the Homeowners Association at Hidden Pines, we like to object to this high-density multifamily request for change. It's not that we don't want residential in that area. We just believe that there's no compelling reason to change an ordinance that dates back to 2008. It doesn't provide the common area that's very similar to the surrounding community, surrounding homes. We do believe that the reason that the 2008 ordinance was there for the lack of multifamily was because of the extreme density that this plan shows. We do object to the lack of connectivity between Willow Glen. And it just as those variance requests allow for this high density area, and there's nothing that's in this area that looks like this. We just don't think it's compatible with our neighbors. Although we agree and we appreciate the development of the retail space, and we like the previous plan. We didn't have an objection to the previous plan where they were single family homes. We just do object to this high density multifamily proposed plan.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Paxton Davis, 3227 Purple Ash Drive in Willow Glen. As a resident of Willow Glen, my neighbors and I have significant concerns about the proposal to change the current zoning. Our first concern is an increase in traffic. The development of the southeast corner of 300 South and 421 with retail outlets will no doubt increase an already busy intersection. However, if 121 homes are also added into the mix, along with the existing neighborhoods of Willow Glen, Brookhaven, the Willows, and other neighborhoods, the traffic could reach dangerous levels, especially in the morning and afternoon when school buses are operating. Since there are no current plans to expand the roadway for additional traffic that will be incurred, we find it unsafe and irresponsible to allow the development to include additional residential dwellings. Our second concern is the increase of students to Zionsville Community Schools Corporation, especially Union Elementary. Union Elementary is already over capacity. And even a new elementary school opening in 2022, the school corporation is growing rapidly with new communities already under development. We understand that there are claims that townhouses will be purchased by empty nesters and young professionals who would not be utilizing the school system. However, at the price point Pulte is proposing for families wanting Zionsville schools, there are few other options in the community and nothing within Union Elementary's boundaries in that price range. Finally, do we want a community of densely populated multifamily housing units? Part of the appeal of Zionsville to our family and our neighbors was that Zionsville is different. The town was not packing in housing units like Carmel or Fishers. We believe allowing developments like the current townhouses proposal would reduce to the appeal of the community while also failing to provide the tax base necessary to provide services to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Hello, my name is Christoph Riddell. I live at 3229 Autumn Ash Drive, also a Willow Glen resident. My family and I moved to Zionsville about 6 years ago, and we moved here primarily because of the exemplary job that this commission does and that the town does in planning the development here for all of its residents. Since then, we have opened a small business here, and we also have commercial real estate interests here in the town of Zionsville as well, which we hope to be developing in the very near future. I would have to agree with Paxton. This type of development is not in keeping with the character of Zionsville. It's something more like what you would find in some of our Hamilton County neighboring communities. So I urge this commission and the town to overturn this proposal. I think most of the residents in Willow Glen at least can agree that the original proposal for the empty nester single family homes was much more palatable and more in keeping with the character of Zionsville. So that's what I had to say.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Hi, my name is Jeff Running. I live at 3597 Sugar Pine Lane, also in Hidden Pines. I just also happen to be a member of the board of the HOA in Hidden Pines. And I'm here to also express my objection to this proposal. One of the reasons my wife and I moved to Hidden Pines saw that this type of development would not occur. We wouldn't have to live next to something like this. That's why we didn't move to Carmel. But now it's starting to happen in the community, and it's changing the entire nature of the town that we wanted to live in. I'm also worried, as the previous gentleman said, about the density of traffic. I don't hear of any plans to expand the Michigan Road to handle the excess traffic once Holiday Farms is completed. Once that Oxford subdivision is completed, and there's another subdivision going in south of Oxford, we're just going to add to the congestion. And in addition, one of the things that's conspicuous by its absence in this proposal is why the previous plan for 86 so-called garden homes was changed to 121 homes now. It's I just don't understand why the previous proposal is insufficient for the people who are planning and developing this. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody online? Nope. Ms. Price, would you like to respond?
Yes, ma'am. Well, first of all, we appreciate the comments very much. We, on behalf of Pulte, we certainly believe that Hidden Pines is a very nice development, and appreciate those comments. One of the things I guess I want to address right off the bat is the notion that this is higher density the change we're asking for is to permit the attached style of dwelling. Back in 2019, the commitments were modified to permit a major residential subdivision. And under the development standards that are applicable to general business and professional business, which is the two zoning districts that cover this land, both are the same with regard to how they treat residential properties. They permit lot sizes down to 5,000 square foot lots. And so there are other development standards as well, as far as lot frontage, side yard setbacks. You have to meet a 5 foot side yard setback. But the notion that amending this commitment somehow adds residential density in any material way is just not accurate. What it does is it permits the attached single family form of dwelling, as opposed to what's permitted today, which is 5,000 square foot lots, 5 foot side yard setbacks, and detached. So it's a definitional exercise that we're going through, as opposed to density. I would also note that the town's traffic engineer, so the same engineering company that analyzes traffic for us on this project, also is the town's traffic engineer, A&F. And their study concluded that by changing the use from commercial and office for this area to residential, even with the townhomes at 121 units, that the number of overall trips is reduced by 450 trips a day. So the demand on traffic infrastructure actually goes down overall and substantially. Mr. Harris and I were also just chatting briefly that as far as improvements to 421, those improvements, if you've driven by there, are in place today. There's been turning lanes added. There's plans for a future signalization of the southernmost entry point. Mr. Harris has spent millions of dollars making those improvements to 421. He has similar commitments relative to the turn lane improvements along 146th Street, which the town earlier this year received a report from its civil engineers about what the future costs of upgrading 146th Street were. And they were staggering as far as from where it starts in Zionsville to the east and extends west. This project finances a portion of those 146th Street improvements, along its frontage. I guess, and the last thing that I would mention. Oh, let me talk a little bit about the generation of children. Based on Pulte's experience over the last 30 years, they estimate there'd be approximately 0.1 child per unit, so around 12 kids overall. This same discussion point has popped up, I think, I know when Manchester Square and Manchester Estates have been periodically spoken about over the years. And Mike Shaver, who rest his soul, would provide us data that essentially backed up that here is the number of children that get on the school bus in a townhome project. And it comes in at around that 0.1 per dwelling. The project, as I mentioned, is already zoned for a major single family subdivision with lots as small as 5,000 square feet, which is a little bit larger than half of what a lot is in the village, to give you an idea of how small that would be. We think that a traditional single family development would actually have greater impact on the schools than the townhome project, that this actually serves a broader need in the community. We have a community that has relatively few townhome offerings. This serves a need for young professional, some empty nesters who are active and can still negotiate the 2-story building. And then also kind of a niche, which has been noted over the years, is that for instances where Families have shared custody arrangements and they want to stay inside Zionsville School Corporation. It provides that option as well. Those are the three major demographic categories that the project draws from. Again, we abide by the height limitations. We've enjoyed, we think, a very good relationship with Willow Glen over the last few years. We fully intend on continuing that as we have ongoing discussions with them about the precise buffering treatment to the east. And in fact, we have a property walk, I think, scheduled for tomorrow to follow up on that. It's not something that's unusual. We've had intermittent conversations with that homeowners association over the last few years and have enjoyed a great relationship and plan on being good partners in the future, including connecting their subdivision for foot traffic into the Appaloosa Crossing development so they can benefit from the offerings, including restaurants, cafes, other offerings that we intend to have as part of the retail portions of the project. For all those reasons, we respectfully ask your approval and again, be happy to answer any questions from members of the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I would ask, you got a short rebuttal. Would anybody from the public who'd like to comment on what he stated?
Mike Solar again, just one rebuttal. A 5,000 square foot allowance for a lot with a 5-foot setback on either side. If that's the standard, let's follow the standard. Making interconnecting walls and saying that it's not higher density is just mathematically impossible. So I don't see that that's compatible. I wanted to point that out. And the other thing I forgot to say previously was the comment made about hopefully a boutique grocery store. I heard a change. There was a grocery store before, wasn't compatible with the development plans. Having that background, I understand the mathematics. However, a hopeful is not a plan. So if there's going to be a grocery store in the 5-acre parcel to the north, then let's make that part of this commitment in this conversation, rather than the continuing to change the plan, as I understand this has occurred. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, at this point in time, I'll close public hearing on this. Janice, can I have the staff report, please?
Are we presenting?
Roger, you're going to have it?
Yes, thank you. As has been mentioned, this petition or this project is subject to 3 different petitions. First being commitment amendment, then a primary plat, and then a development plan. Petitioner has done a good job of laying out a lot of the for the overview of the project, but I do have some specific comments to make for each different petition, beginning with the commitment amendment. As was mentioned, this property was rezoned back in the mid-2000s with commitments recorded in 2008 when this property was rezoned under the county's jurisdiction. The commitment for no multifamily was included at that time. So while townhomes or multifamily dwellings are typically a good buffer from a planner standpoint, a good buffer between single family residential and commercial uses, staff is curious as to what has happened since 2008 when those commitments were recorded, which prohibited multifamily. What has changed between then and now, other than the full development of a residential subdivision immediately to the east of this site? I did inquire of Mr. Price what information had been shared with the neighbors of specifically Willow Glen to the east about this change of use, and he had mentioned that they're hoping to have a walkthrough tomorrow. But as I understood it and as I've heard tonight, that is more for topics regarding landscaping buffers. And staff is curious how were the interested parties notified of this potential change of use. So those are just some, with that, staff is supportive of this, again, because traditionally, multifamily does provide a good buffer between single family and commercial, but there are just some unknowns that we would still like to learn a little bit more of. Moving on to the primary plat petition. It is noted that there are 4 waivers associated with this petition. Initially, when this went through TAC and comments were generated, the town's engineer objected to 2 of these. Since that time, additional information has been provided. Staff is now in support of the 4 different waivers. I would note, and this is going to now lead somewhat into the development plan. Mr. Price mentioned quite a bit about landscaping and how things were going to be moving. And one of the waivers on the primary plat is the elimination of street trees. You should be aware that the changes of the landscaping that is being proposed is also subject of a development standards variance, which will be heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals at their September 1st meeting. So that is an item that they will have to approve as well. Regarding the primary plat, staff is in support of approval of the waivers and the primary plat itself. Regarding the development plan, just checking my notes here, there were also some new information presented tonight, specifically regarding the exterior building materials. Staff had not had the ability to review those prior to tonight, so information that was presented this evening. Should you choose to act upon this and approve it, I would suggest that you also include the requirement that it be subject to the information that was presented tonight, since staff did not have a chance to review those. But regarding the development plan, staff is in support of it also. All of these are subject to the BZA approving the variances for landscaping, and the conditions is noted in the staff report. I'd be glad to answer any other questions.
All right, thank you. At this point in time, I'll open up to members of the Planning Commission for questions, comments.
So I guess I'll start. Mr. Price, I feel like we're getting a little bit of a bait and switch. Kind of, hey, look at these single family homes, approve these. Okay, great. Now let's try and up the density. And I agree with Mr. Solar in that there's no way this density is equal to the density that was approved last time. It may be within the allowable density, but you now have 121 units on the same acreage. You had 87 units, and saying that you have the same density is mathematically impossible. So you might want to rethink that a little bit. I also feel like we've been gracious in allowing some changes relative to landscaping on some of the retail areas in this development. And I feel like now that's kind of getting taken advantage of, that, well, we just don't have to provide the required landscaping. We'll just move the trees somewhere else. I think it's gonna be pretty depressing driving down one of those internal streets in that neighborhood with no street trees. I think that's a huge mistake. I think it makes it very uninviting. I think the lack of any sort of common area or green space makes it very uninviting. Certainly doesn't help the value of the subdivision. And then you've got multiple areas where you've got those little dead end streets where you've got residents that look out their front door into the side of another person's townhome, which those would be a great opportunity to add some amenity space within that neighborhood. What is your price point, Mr. Price, on these units?
So Pulte estimates they'll be between 325 and 350 per unit.
Okay. I personally, as an architect, not very pleased with the aesthetic of it. It's a lot of garage door and not a lot of anything else. I feel like when you can put garages in the rear on units like this, it's much more successful, creates much more of a sense of kind of collected community versus, I bought this because I had to buy it versus I bought it because I wanted to be here and partake in the neighborhood and in the community. So I am generally not very satisfied with the change to this density or the design of these units compared to what you presented to us last time.
Yeah, let me speak to the kind of the first point too. First, Mr. Lake, and I appreciate your comments. I think what you're referring to is the empty nester project that we did present back in January for variances that related to the front yard setback for those properties. It did not progress to the stage of a development plan or plat being approved. And I can provide a little more color with regard to that. That builder is based locally, and they had, you may recall, certain members of the Plan Commission will recall, and all of you may be familiar with it. They have another project just north of St. Alphonsus Church, and which has been a very successful project. And they were looking for another location here in Zionsville. And frankly, as we got closer to that becoming a reality, they got into more discussions with what I would call the broader EPCON corporate body about a couple of things. One was the materials costs associated with building those homes, which they were increasingly uncomfortable with as far as a risk in their business plan. And secondly, EPCON as a broader corporate entity, notwithstanding the local builders' great interest in that site, they could not identify another location where EPCON had been within a mixed-use development, where they had been kind of immediately adjoining the commercial uses that were present with our project. And I will tell you that they just got cold feet. They felt like the customer that they serve, which is a different customer base than what would go here, that they were increasingly concerned that they would be able to satisfy the concerns of their would-be purchaser living really anywhere near the commercial development. And so while it initially felt like that was going to be a good transitional use, it just turned out they couldn't get comfortable with that. And so they went a different direction and left us. We were, however, very, I guess, bullish and keen on the idea of maintaining the transitional use notion here, that we would have and would benefit from a residential component to transition between the commercial and Willow Glen in particular to the east, which had been our discussions for the good part of, a year. And so consistent with that, the staff report, we think rightfully was supportive of that. And we've continued along those lines with discussions with Willow Glen. How that was socialized, Roger mentioned that in the staff report. Our practice over the last couple of years has been to speak with the president of the Willow Glen Homeowners Association, Kristen Norris, who's I think here this evening. She's right there. Hello, Kristen. And to provide periodic updates. Kristen, in my experience, then kind of invites us, if you will, to broader discussions with that community as I think as her constituency feels warranted and as she feels warranted. And so we had an initial discussion with Kristen. We felt like that went positively, that the benefits of the transitional use were still present with this development. And so we went forward. Had additional discussions with various of the neighbors along our eastern property line, even as late as last evening, to go over specific buffer treatments so that those individual homeowners could be confident about what they're going to see from their side of the project. And those discussions certainly continue, and I think we'll plan on having those continue tomorrow as well. I might also add that's not been unusual for us. We've had, I would say, an ongoing and productive dialogue with the Willow Glen Homeowners Association, including discussions about what the appropriate means for connecting from a pedestrian standpoint were, and that's kind of how we work together to come up with this idea to connect over in the northeast portion. On the density question, I certainly understand what you mean as far as, is it the exact same density if it's the exact same piece of ground? What I was pointing to is that if one wanted to be creative and try to maximize the number of single family lots to roughly approximate 121 lots, I believe you could reconfigure the interior of this project, incorporate other portions of common area, and seek to maximize the number of, for example, 5,000 square foot lots. There's a procedure under the county zoning ordinance for reducing lot frontages for up to 20% of the total lots in your development. You could go through a yield exercise to try to do that. We've not done that. We've tried to emphasize the positive aspects of the townhome project, and I think secure the transitional nature of the use, and have no more homes in a material sense than what would otherwise be permitted in the interior of this project under the existing zoning. But what it does allow for us to do is to have attached townhomes, so a shared wall, if you will, whereas it's otherwise not permitted under the existing commitment. And I would also say, I think part of the reason why I was not part of the initial commitments, but the initial commitments back in 2008 prohibited multifamily in the GB and PB district, which was being put in place. And I think there was pretty good reason for that, which is that the apartments are a permitted use under that zoning classification. They were then, they are today, and they permit 20 units per acre. And so I think the intent of that commitment was to prohibit apartments, wasn't necessarily speaking to a townhome like what we're proposing here today. I might also add it prohibited single family residential in those commitments back from 2008. And so when we modernized those commitments, we allowed for single family residential, and at the time felt like an empty nester offering might be appropriate. We tested that, and it's evolved to this point to the townhome type offering as a builder who is confident in the location, comfortable with the neighbors on the east and the west, and a good fit, we think, for securing that transitional use as you go from west to east.
Chris, do you have any follow-up?
Other than, I'm looking at these lots, if you look at wall to wall, curb to, or, front to back, you're at 2,600 square foot per unit for the interior units. You were pretty maxed out at the 87 on density before, given the single family requirements. And so I don't think you could get 21 detached homes on this property under any sort of zoning standard that we have. So it is a significant increase in density.
I'll
go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, I'll back up a little bit about what Chris is saying. Obviously, it's not the Plan Commission's job to be real estate developers. We have to work within the guidelines of what we're approving or denying. But it doesn't stop us from looking around to see what has been successful in other environments. Hinkie over in Bridgewater tried to do a product like this over close to the Gurin High School. Those buildings never did sell. They eventually sold those lots off to another person who then they too couldn't get the project off the ground, and then came back through and did like single family homes on the subdivided lots. They were multi-story, front loaded garage. On the other hand, we can look across the street at Manchester Square and we see a development where they did a very similar type product, but there they rear loaded the garages on many of them. They did a boulevard down the front. I was just on my phone doing a quick count of the previous development, and of what appears to be 40 units, they had 16 common parking area plus street parking. Plus they had their trees, the street trees, sidewalks on both sides. So once again, Matt, what you're asking for is just pushing the boundaries one step too far. We're sorry that, I think back that when I started on this commission, Jay Parks and Alan Rachels were running it, and they made a comment about how, Mr. Harris was trying to get a standalone gas station up at this site, and they weren't interested really in hearing anything until they had a entire development for the parcel assembled. We, a decade later have tried to be obliging and allow Mr. Harris to do portions of the development as other items come on, and here we're sitting, being presented this, and all we can really do is rely on the rules and regs that we have in place, whether we approve or deny. And I'm not particularly interested in granting additional variances to get this amount of density and this type of product at this site.
Like to comment?
Yeah, I appreciate what Mr. Jones is saying, and I think we have enjoyed flexibility in working with the Plan Commission. I think it has arrived at a very positive project in terms of the mix of uses that we're offering. At the same token, we have, I think, worked very hard with our neighbors at Willow Glen throughout this process, and I think, very much committed to a residential use to provide that transition. And this is one that works. Now, I certainly understand the history, for example, of Manchester Square and Manchester Estates. It worked out. Now, it took a decade for that to work out the way it looks today. They have dead-end streets. They have some street level plantings, some of which shroud the front of the homes and hide the front facades, even cover up part of the garage doors. And what we were trying to do is to not relieve ourselves of the responsibility of making those plantings, but to put them in locations where we thought it maximized the property from an aesthetic standpoint. Now, having said that, we would certainly be amenable to looking at other options, in terms of landscaping treatments as we go forward. As I mentioned, earlier on in our discussions with Willow Glen, we have had discussions with the property owners along our southeastern border about allowing them to choose specific species, both on our property and on their property, to enhance that buffering. Those discussions are going to be ongoing, and we would certainly look at other treatments that could be done with regard to the development itself to enhance the aesthetic.
So, Mr. Price, you talked a couple times about your communications with the Willow Glen neighborhood, yet nobody from Willow Glen stood up in support of this project. Why is that?
Kristen Norris is coming forward.
Hi there, Kristen Norris, 3256 Autumn Ash Court, president of the HOA for the Willow Glen Neighborhood Association. I'll be honest with you, I tend to stay out of, for the most part, the approving and I see my role as the president of the HOA to facilitate a conversation and a dialogue between Bob Harris and my neighborhood and create communities. And so several of my neighbors stepped up today and presented their opinion. I'm not going to stand here as the president and tell you, is everybody in the HOA Willow Glen excited about a 2-story development behind their house? Of course not. We were very much like our neighbors, excited about the empty nester. I'm sure as heck much more excited about residential than I am any business. And 2 or 3-story businesses going in behind my home. I live right up against this property. I have a stub road at the end of my road, thanks to some long-standing plan to connect our neighborhoods together that never came through fruition. And I would say that's when we started talking to Bob Harris, was like, what's going on with this new neighborhood? So he's not lying. We've been in multiple dialogues. Bob and I will have a meeting. He'll give me an update. I'll email him about updates. And my neighbors can attest to this. We've had more HOA meetings in the past since I've taken on the presidency of the HOA. And they are great. They were here at our neighborhood last night at 5 o'clock, and they spent an hour and a half talking to everybody in the community. They walked the property line, listened to our concerns. We ask questions, they follow up with the questions. So to say that we don't have a dialogue would be a false pretense. We have a very great relationship, I would say, in trying to figure out what's going to work best for our neighbors and our community. Am I going to tell you, though, that everyone in the Willow Glen is excited about this? No, no one's excited. I've been looking at a beautiful field and have a gorgeous sunset for the last 5 years I've lived there. No, I'm not happy about that. But at the end of the day, what is my alternative? I sure as heck don't want a big, huge business in the back of my neighborhood. I want connectivity, and they're willing to put in a path into our neighborhood, into our green space, so that my kids can safely ride their bikes and go get ice cream. I care about those kinds of things. And I think they've been more than willing to work with us on those spaces. And so I do appreciate our relationship. And it's not my job as a town commission to sit here and tell you guys whether or not you approve 2-story homes. I think that's, unfortunately, whether you like the roles you sit in or not, that's not yours. And the role I sit here as the president of the HOA is to make sure that my community's voices are heard. And thank you. That's where I stand on it. And I appreciate all my neighbors for coming out and showing up. And if you want to say against it, it's fine. I think that's where their values are heard. If you have questions for me, I can answer them.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Chris?
No, I still didn't hear any wild support for it. So that was kind of my point.
Anybody else have questions, comments?
The road to the north of this, or on the north end here, you got the dead end road. Will that eventually connect to this north lot with the boutique store, grocery store, whatever it's going to go in? Is that going to connect eventually? The north dead end road on the property.
Arabian Lane.
Yeah, I couldn't read that. Got to get my glasses. Yeah, Arabian Lane there. Will that connect eventually to the, or a sidewalk access, or?
Oh, you mean to the, would it connect to the east? No, it would not. If I'm understanding you, no, Arabian Lane just tees into Haflinger and does not extend further east beyond that point.
No, I'm talking about the northern section of it.
Northern section. Can I?
Am I looking at this? Right. Let's put it right here. It connects up here to the future connect. Will there be a connection with this road right here?
So I'm sorry, I think I misunderstood you. No, that's to the north. No, it would connect to the frontage road that goes along 146th Street. We have a outlet, so that the intention is that the future grocery store user would be oriented to the north. You would gain access from the road, the frontage road that extends west to east behind the outlots.
Okay. How many townhomes are connected in each individual building, or is that subject to the length of the street? I'm just kind of curious how that's determined.
It varies throughout the project. I believe in the development plan staff report on page 3, there's a table there that summarizes the 4, 5.
I remember that now.
Yeah. The 4, 5, and 6 unit building count and how those break out as far as the total composition of units.
Sounds like the decision's been made that there's going to be residential of some sort in this space. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, we feel like that's the best use and the right use for it. Absolutely. I should also add, we appreciate very much Kristen Norris's remarks. I think those were spot on as far as the characterization of our ongoing contacts with her. I will say, based on the feedback that we received this evening, that and the upcoming schedule of events we have with Willow Glen, it's beyond just tomorrow night. We kind of laid out a calendar a month or so ago as far as what our future activities would be. We were hopeful that that would be a post-approval, but given some of the flavor of the comments and our walkthrough tomorrow along the property line, which Roger properly indicated is mostly about the buffer. It's not only about that. When we have discussions, it goes, there's no rules about what you can talk about. We talk about the whole project. I don't want to, I'm open and would like to receive any other additional comment, but we would also, I think, like to have additional dialogue with, in particular, Willow Glen, and believe a continuance maybe in order to allow us to do that.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
I've got, I think, just an overall comment. I don't disagree with you when it comes to it's a great transition piece, right? I don't think anybody wants to build a $500 million house on the other side of retail. I mean, that seems logical. But again, you guys are, I think you're taking away the landscaping. This is not terribly appealing. This isn't what we want in Zionsville, to me. I mean, I think you can, so I would just say go back, think about possibly a little less density. I mean, maybe still over 87, but not 121, and try to make it a little nicer looking aesthetically with just a, I mean, what I see is a garage that happens to have a couple windows above it. And it's just not what we think of when we want to see real estate in Zionsville. So add some landscaping. The concept I'm okay with of that transition. But that's my suggestion.
Anybody else?
I mean, Matt, once again, like I said, it's not our job to play developer, but did the gas station end up down there on lot H?
Yes.
And so then on lot I, we've got the liquor store, and then down there, the vet and all that. I'm glad that this project or this presentation is showing the lot, or the entry to it, kind of lining up with the existing entry off of 421. I was never happy with the previous kind of funny jog. You know, I'd suggest having some discussions with somebody to maybe figure out a way to transition the entry into this thing. My opinion would be is to do something a little different along there to maybe buffer the housing behind it. And you might strike a blend between the proposed single family home, 5,000 foot lot owners not wanting to look out their backyard and see a gas station. Like I said, it's not our job to play developer, but as I'm watching this thing unfold, I see how I see the nature of the request and why they're happening.
And I think too, to add to that, Larry, I mean, these other neighborhoods came into being after these commitments were put in place. And
Right.
so they weren't expecting this. And now they're changing it. And if you're going to change it, at least give us something good out of it. And we're getting a change that wasn't contemplated by the neighbors, which is less is more likely to be unappealing to them, and a development that also in and of itself isn't very appealing.
Anybody else? All right, so a request for continuance on these three matters to be suddenly filling up September 20th. Plan Commission meetings. Is there a motion to continue this matter, these three matters?
I'll move that we move docket 2021-37-PP. Can we make it all one motion?
Yeah, for the continuance, sure.
The continuance, docket 2021-38-DP and docket 2021-39-CA to be continued to the September 20th Plan Commission meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Janice, would you please take roll?
Mr. France,
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Lake,
Aye.
Mr. Fedor,
Aye.
Ms. Madrick. Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Matter is continued. You got a busy month.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Well, the Goodwin property, that matter was continued to next month. I don't know if, I can't speak for them. If they would want to talk to you about it, that's fine. So, okay.
They're nodding.
All right. Where are we? All right, next on the docket is 2021-40 DPA AES 10440 Bennett Parkway, petition for development plan amendment modification for the addition of a parking lot with 13 spaces on the east side of the property in the urban I-2 general industrial zoning district. Is the petitioner present? Online? Okay.
Yes.
All right, please proceed.
Yeah, my name is Leslie Steiner and I'm with Landworks Engineering, 958 East Washington Street, Suite 100, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46202. This particular office building is in construction now and was approved last year or the beginning of this year. And the owner has decided that they wanted to add 13 parking spots to this, which will require a retaining wall. But that is about the only thing we're asking for on this amendment to the development plan. And myself and Evan West, who's the design engineer on the project, is on the call as well. And we're here to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody in the public who'd like to speak on this matter? Janice, Roger, would you have the staff report, please?
Thank you. As the petitioner mentioned, this project was originally approved as docket number 2020-19-DP on July 20th of last year, received full development plan approval for a building of approximately 12,000 gross square feet. Out of that 12,000, it's about a 6,200 square foot footprint. And the lower level is a walkout basement. At that time, the approval included just a single row of parking along the eastern frontage, immediately butting up against the facade of the building. Since that time, the developer is wanting to add an additional row of parking, which would be between the previously approved row and Bennett Parkway. In the process of doing this, they are allowed to reduce the front setback from 40 down to 20 if they provide a type A landscaping, which they have done in this proposal. So that is the major change that did affect some drainage features, which staff has reviewed and approved. The only item of concern is that now there is a retaining wall that is being proposed to accommodate this new parking area. That retaining wall encroaches into a utility easement. The original layout included a small encroachment also. That small encroachment was approved. However, now that we're adding another row of parking, that encroachment is greater. Town staff and Trico Utilities have looked at it, and there is no objection to it. However, we do still need to get confirmation from Citizens Energy. Okay. As they have a line running through that easement. We just want to make sure that they're okay with the encroachment as well.
Okay, thank you. At this point, is there any questions, comments from any of the members, Planning Commission?
It's about time somebody added more parking, not less.
Too bad it's too far from.
Maybe you can rent these to Cohatch.
Good idea.
Or Nicholson Orthodontics, take your pick.
We honestly just don't want to continue to next month. I think you guys are full.
Yeah, well, I'm optimistic that's not going to happen. Okay. Any
Fingers
further
crossed.
comments? Any further comments, discussion? If not, is there a motion on this matter?
I move that docket number 2021-40-DPA Development Plan Amendment Modification for the addition of a parking area of 13 additional parking spaces on the east side of the property in the urban I-2 General Industrial Zoning District be approved based on the findings of fact in the staff report, staff recommendation, the submitted findings of fact, pending approval by all utilities.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion, comment? Janice, would you please take roll?
Mr. Franz?
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Lake?
Aye.
Mr. Fedor?
Aye.
Ms. Madrick? Aye.
All right, that motion carries 6-0. It's approved. Thank you very much. We do get some things done.
Thank you very much for your time.
2021-35 BP Ford Center Commercial Building, 1466 West Oak Street. Petition for development plan approval of a 2,000 square foot commercial building within the existing Ford Center development and the urban general business zoning district. Is the petitioner present? Assume they're online.
Hoping you can see me. This is Mark Dimmerly with Dimmerly Architects.
Yep, we see you and hear you. Thanks. Please proceed.
Thank you. I know David Cosine is also online, but I'm not for sure if he can log in properly and everything. So I will just go ahead and present. We've been working with staff. Staff's been amazing, by the way. You guys have a great group of people up there. We were proposing a 2,000 square foot commercial building there on the Ford Center. I think most of the presentation has been really included in the documents. We presented the finishes. We're looking at something that is compatible with regards to other buildings, still a little bit more contemporary than some of the more traditional of the original Ford Center, but I think still very compatible. And we've also addressed, I think, with staff, a number of items that have come up that are regards to drainage and parking and queuing and everything else. So what I would like to do, I know they have recommended for approval. I'd like to go ahead and answer any questions that the commission would have.
All right, thank you. At this point in time, is there anybody from the public who'd like to comment on this matter? Anybody online? Roger, Janice? Roger, staff report, please.
Thank you. As stated, the proposal before you is for a 2,000 square foot commercial building located within the Ford Center. This project, rather straightforward. A couple of the unique items about it, though, would be that they are proposing a drive-through window, which would be on the eastern facade. And I mention that because if this project has also already gone before the Board of Zoning Appeals and received a variance, it was approved for reduction in foundation landscaping. When you take a look at the landscaping on this, it might appear light, and the BZA looked at it, evaluated it, and granted the approval. And again, when you're looking at the landscape plan, the question might come up of well, we're only seeing foundation plantings on the west facade. The reason for that is on the east facade, the aforementioned drive-through window. There's a section within our ordinance that says you don't have to have foundation plantings along that wall if you're going to have a drive-through window there. So they are proposing other landscaping around the perimeter of the site. This just touching lightly on parking, since I know that Mr. Lake is concerned about that. When you look at this building and what they are proposing, granted they are taking out some parking spaces to construct this building. Overall, the required parking of the integrated center and what is provided does meet with the ordinance requirements. So with that, staff is supportive of the request. Be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. At this point, open up to any members of the Plan Commission. Any questions, comments?
I was reading through the recommended motion. And it says subject to resolution of outstanding items in memo number 5. Did those is that resolved?
Those, Mr. Jones, those are standard comments from our town's engineer and some comments resulting from the TAC review. These are minor items, at least from our point of view, that still have yet to be addressed, but they are minor items that would not be significantly impacting the project. It's a matter of crossing some T's and dotting some I's.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I just comment on the design. The western facade's awful flat. Doesn't offer much visual appeal, and you're going to get a lot of direct sun coming in those west windows. It'd be nice if you could do some sort of articulation of that facade or some sort of sunscreen extension on the mullion or something to kind of give that a little bit of depth. I think it'll serve you well in the long run and might improve the aesthetic of that facade.
My comment, we'll work with staff on that, okay? And discuss the possibilities, okay?
Fine.
Anybody else? If not, is there a motion on this matter?
Sure. I move that docket number 2021-35-DP, development plan for a 2,000 square foot commercial building within the Ford Center, which is zoned urban general business B2B, approved based on 1, the findings of the staff report and the staff recommendations, 2, submitted findings of fact, and 3, subject to resolution of outstanding review items identified by the engineer review memo in Exhibit 5 of the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion, comment? Janice, would you please take roll?
Mr. Franz,
Aye.
Mrs. Grabanowski.
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Lake,
Aye.
Mr. Fedor,
Aye.
Mrs. Madrick,
Aye.
The matter carries 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much and appreciate being virtual tonight as well.
Thanks. On to other matters. Dan, would you want to take the first one?
Yes, as you know, you'll need someday to adopt a remote meeting policy. I'm going to pass out for each of you a resolution that would get you there. And this resolution doesn't try to take a lot of license with the state law, and it matches very closely what your town council is considering. But essentially, it would allow you to continue to meet remotely if you're in a public health emergency declared by the governor or by the mayor. And so that would not change. And if that occurs, you all can, at least one of you has to be present, but the others can participate electronically, and they count for a quorum and they can vote. So that's what we've been doing. But if there is no emergency, that's where we get into really the hard part. And the state legislature is allowed some flexibility. And so that flexibility you'll see in section 3 on page 2. The way this works is that if at least a majority of you can be physically present, then up to 3 members could participate electronically with some restrictions. And those restrictions generally are that you can only participate electronically 2 consecutive meetings. After that, you have to come back and be physically present unless there's some exigent circumstances that would allow you to do it more. Or secondly, you cannot participate remotely more than 50% of your meetings in the calendar year. So although you can do it, you can't exceed that number. Again, there are some exceptions, which you'll see for military service, illness, death of a relative, or emergency, a real emergency, they say. And so the process would work, as you see in the middle of page 2, 3B, is that if you want to participate electronically, you just have to provide notice of that to the president of the commission. The recommendation is 7 days in advance. If you cannot do it 7 days in advance, then the president may allow you to do so at his discretion. Rule C says that if more than 3 of you want to attend electronically, it's first come, first serve. There's really no other way to do that. So you can only say yes to 3, and after that, you can't say yes anymore. And so it sets that out, and then you'll see it on page 3. State law does not allow you to meet remotely if any of the 7 items in section 5 are on your agenda. And I can't imagine these will really be on your agenda because they really are more financial matters, but probably not applicable to you. And then, and so those would be the rules. So this resolution, which is a draft for you to consider, mirrors exactly the state law. Now, the state law does say that you may adopt rules that are more stringent than this. Otherwise, you could limit members to participate only 1 meeting at a time, not 2 consecutive, or you could limit it to less than 50% of the meetings for the year. My recommendation to you would be to stay with what the state law says, see how that works for a while, because nobody quite knows how this is going to work. You guys did great during the pandemic, being all remote, but this mix of remote and physically present, we're not sure how that'll go. But so I think what most governments are doing is they're going to follow that state law and see how that works. And if they feel like they need to tighten it up later, they always can come back, adopt another resolution amending this. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
And currently, we don't need this because we're still under the emergency order, correct?
Right, the governor's order is still in place, so you don't need it quite yet because you're still allowed to do what you need to do, but probably I would recommend that in September you take some action. And if you want changes to this, fine, but go ahead and take some action because no one really knows how long the governor has only left that on, not because of COVID count, but because of a fear that the federal government would link disaster relief to whether or not you still had an emergency. So he's left it on there, but he's not going to leave it on there forever.
All right. Could you forward a copy of this to Janice so she can get it to Larry, Sharon, and Chris?
Well, Chris, sure. Larry, yes, sure. Larry too. I'll do that.
All right. Roger, are you going to take the next item? Where's Wayne? Wayne's coming back.
Because he wants to say that word. Charette.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to the other items that are on your docket for this evening. It's probably been almost a year since we started talking about the form-based code process, and we've been talking more succinctly about that within recent days. And here is that moment where we're steering towards, as Dan said, the charrettes. And that is going to be a week-long event within each township. We will be in Fayette at the firehouse on one night, the airport and a hangar on the one night. We will be at Town Hall upstairs one night and then downstairs on the fourth night. Not here tonight to tell you exactly what night is what stage, but nonetheless, we will be coming to an area near you, looking to seek public input directly from the public. And in the meantime, and the entire time, our team from Michigan will be working out of Brick Street Inn in their studio. So lots of different ways to interact with the team that's working on the form-based code. So more information forthcoming in a press release, but we'll outline the schedule. I just don't want to confuse the public by articulating that tonight and changing our minds.
So what about if four of us would show up at the same time? What about the open meeting requirements?
I'll happily notice each one of those, and we will want to include the plan commission, the town council, and any other body, RDC, for example, that may want to frequent those events. It will be different per locale, so to speak, but with the same presentation. But certainly, it's much like our ZGA, the Zionsville Gateway Area Project. It's a listening mode as well as educational mode, but we are out to gather public input.
All right, thanks. Anybody else have any questions on that?
Real quick, so we can attend any of them, all of them, or none of them we want to, correct?
Correct. And certainly the evening on the fourth night will be an output session to articulate back to the attendees and certainly for the consulting team to be talking about what the information they gathered based upon their prior days activities.
Will some of these be run concurrently?
Each one will be a different night. So
okay.
So they'll be.
So it might carry over to next week. Because that'd be Monday is the 20th is Plan Commission. So
right.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So you'll wrap it up on Friday.
Yeah, well, wrap it up on Thursday night. So in essence, I would not staff or plan to staff the Plan Commission meeting.
Oh, okay. So
I'll be working.
All right.
Most likely it'll be one of the remote sessions.
Okay. Gotcha.
Wayne, are we going to have a quorum issue if more than 3 of us attend any one meeting?
We'll look to notice these so we don't have a legal issue. Open door.
If we give notice to it, then it's okay if a majority of you attend and participate.
Okay, that works.
All right. All right, thank you, Wayne. Placement of public notice signs. Who's Sam? Roger, Janice?
This is a conversation that staff would like to bring to you in that presently what happens between the BZA and Plan Commission when a project is noticed, put on the petition, a sign is placed on that parcel. And that is typically the responsibility of staff to place that sign, understanding that it's not just placing the sign, but also picking them up. The amount of time involved in staff's attending to that task is time spent away from other tasks that are maybe just as important. So what we'd like to do is bring to you an idea of updating the rules of procedure to include the responsibility of sign placement on the petitioner. we'll bring that to you just for a review the next meeting.
Okay,
That makes sense.
sounds good.
And so I'd be remiss not to point out the reason we chose to do it this way originally is we were reluctant to push this responsibility onto the petitioner, among other reasons. The challenge of what if my sign disappears? What if my sign blows away? Will a interested party feel that adequate notice was not provided if the sign is not maintained? Certainly these signs cost money. The signs take time to put up. So these are items that we want to address in this overall conversation.
Okay.
Wayne, could the signs be placed by staff simply because I could foresee a situation where somebody doesn't clearly put the sign and puts it between two trees or something? But would staff be able to place a sign and make it the burden of the petitioner to remove the sign?
Well, that's sort of how it works right now. And what Janice is getting at is, we've got 3 to 6 hours a month that is dedicated to sign installation and sign retrieval. We do have a team of building inspectors that can as well assist us, but it's still a task nonetheless in utilization of staff's time to put these signs out.
Anything else? Anything else on this one?
The only other thing is that Roger and I would like to pass down the finding of facts, so please stay to take care of those.
All right, so I've got a question. September 20th, we continued 5 matters, I think. I think it's probably too late. I mean, when will you know what the full docket for September is going to look like? And I'm going to guess it's going to be too late to like split it into 2 meetings potentially, correct?
I can let you know after the meeting tomorrow morning. I just don't have the hard copy in front of me right this minute.
We're already too late to even make it. I'm not.
That would cut into the other hearing things that we're doing.
I know, it's not, there's no good answer for next month. I would recommend that you all make sure that, you'll probably be here after 10, so we'll suspend the rules. Yeah, get some sleep, Mary.
Sleep well tonight.
Bring a snack. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Janice, do you want to keep our airport study still?
Yes, I was just going to mention, please keep your airport study.
Yep.
I'm keeping everything that we.
Thank
that
you.
we-
Cindy, if you'd like to keep that packet, do you want the hard copy?
Well, I'm gonna keep
You can keep it all.
the things that, well, some of this, and do you want us to put these in the box so you can use them over again?
That would be great. Did you like those?
I
little
did.
letters? Yeah.